This is the story of Makari, the lion who never roared, but whom no one dared to face. In the heart of the golden savanna, beneath skies painted with fire at dusk, a lion was born unlike any other. His name, whispered later with awe, would be Makari. From his first steps there was strength in his paws, grace in his stance, and the quiet promise of kingship in his amber eyes. Yet from his throat came no thunder. The elders waited for the moment that would crown his arrival, the first roar, the sound that declared a lion's birthright to the world. But silence lingered. Day after day his chest swelled, his jaw opened, yet nothing escaped but breath. No roar, no sound, only the hush of wind sliding across his mane. The savanna took notice. Some whispered that he was broken, cursed, incomplete. Others said fate was sculpting something beyond comprehension. Still Makari grew. His muscles tightened with power, his gaze deepened with fire, and his silence wrapped around him like an invisible cloak. The world expected noise to confirm his place, but Makari was a paradox from the beginning. A king in silence, a storm without sound, a heart that thundered yet never let the thunder escape. As Makari grew, the silence that cloaked him became heavier than his mane. The cubs who once played beside him now circled with doubt in their eyes. A lion without a roar is no lion at all, they whispered, their words slicing sharper than claws. The young gazelles, bold in their speed, mocked from a distance, safe behind their laughter. The hyenas, cunning and cruel, sang in the night about the king who could not speak. Even the elders of the pride cast long glances, their silence echoing louder than any judgment. Makari felt the weight of this absence. His chest was strong enough to wrestle the fiercest winds, his legs powerful enough to crush bone. Yet the world saw only what was missing. In his quiet heart, doubt began to bloom. Was he destined to live as shadow, never crowned by the voice of kings? But though the silence pressed down like stone, he did not yield. He carried it step after step, as the plains stretched wide before him. The very earth seemed to whisper in return. Strength is not always the sound it makes, but the space it holds. One night, as the savanna slept beneath a silver moon, Makari wandered far from the pride. The silence inside him had grown into a storm, pressing against his ribs, begging for release. He climbed a ridge of stone where the wind howled like 1,000 voices, and he stood still, as if waiting for the earth itself to speak. It was then that he heard it, the whisper of the savanna. Not from a single mouth, but from everywhere at once. The wind brushed his mane and murmured, "You are more than sound." The stars flickered with quiet fire, reminding him that brilliance does not roar. Even the great baobab trees, old as time, seemed to lean closer, their roots humming through the ground, telling him, presence can be mightier than noise. Makari closed his eyes, listening. For the first time, the silence within him no longer felt empty. It was vast, powerful, endless. He realized his voice had never been stolen. It had been transformed. His silence was not weakness, but a language few could understand. From that night forward, he began to walk differently. Not faster, not louder, but with a calm gravity, as though the earth itself carried him. Wherever he stepped, the hush of the savanna seemed to follow, and those who saw him began to feel it too, the weight of something greater than sound. The savanna is not kind to the uncertain. It tests every creature, forcing them to prove their place beneath the sun. For Makari, the trial came sooner than expected. A pack of hyenas, bold in their hunger and drunk with their own voices, crept close to the pride one twilight. Their laughter split the air, a chorus of mockery and menace. They knew of Makari, the lion without a roar, and they longed to shame him before his kin. They circled, snapping their teeth, daring him to open his throat, to thunder like the kings of old. The pride held its breath, watching. This was the moment when silence would condemn him, or reveal him. Makari did not roar. Instead, he rose slowly, each movement deliberate, his golden mane catching the fading light like fire. He walked into the circle of hyenas without haste, his eyes steady, his steps like the march of time itself. The hyenas faltered. Their jeers trembled, then died, swallowed by a silence thicker than fear. Makari said nothing. He only looked, and in that gaze was the weight of mountains, the depth of night, the certainty of power that did not need to shout, one by one. The hyenas retreated, their laughter broken, their courage dissolved. And the pride saw it too. The first trial passed not with a roar but with a silence that conquered. Seasons changed, and with them came a shadow upon the savanna. The rains failed, rivers shrank into threads of dust, and the grasslands turned brittle beneath the sun's relentless fire. Hunger prowled through every herd, every den, every nest. But famine was not the only threat. Drawn by weakness, rival predators swept into the land. Packs of hyenas grew bold. Stray leopards prowled deeper. Even foreign lions tested the borders. The harmony of the savanna trembled. The pride looked to Makari. He was strong, yes, but still silent. When a lion roars, the earth shakes, the sky answers, and enemies scatter before the sound. Yet no thunder lived in Makari's chest. Could a king without a roar guard a kingdom falling to chaos? Whispers spread among the animals. How will he defend us? How will silence shield us from the storm? Some even longed for a leader whose voice could shatter the air. Makari heard it all. He felt the weight of eyes upon him, the silent prayers for a roar that would never come. And yet he did not despair. He walked the withered plains at dawn, his mane lit like fire by the rising sun, and the silence moved with him. The animals followed, not by command but by gravity, as though the earth itself bowed to his steps. When the invaders drew near, they found not a voice to battle, but a presence unshaken. His calm was a wall no chaos could breach, his stillness a weapon sharper than any tooth. And though he never roared, the savanna began to gather behind him, as if silence itself had chosen its king. Day by day, the savanna leaned into Makari's stillness. The gazelles no longer mocked him. They lingered near his shadow, sensing safety where words could not reach. The zebras, restless and wary, grazed closer to the pride, trusting that his presence was shield enough. Even the elephants, ancient and proud, lowered their heads when he passed, as though saluting a spirit greater than flesh. Makari did not claim this power. He did not raise his voice to declare his rule. Instead, he moved as he always had, calm, deliberate, grounded like the roots of the baobab. Yet something had changed. The silence that once felt like absence now radiated outward, filling the air, binding the savanna with an invisible thread. Stories began to spread. They said the wind itself bent around him, carrying whispers of his name across the plains. They said his gaze alone could halt a charging beast, and his silence could drown out the loudest roar. With each tale, his myth grew. Makari was no longer merely a lion without a roar. He was the silence that commanded storms, the stillness that held the weight of kings. In his quiet heart, Makari understood. Leadership was not in sound, but in presence. Noise fades, echoes die, but presence endures, shaping the world without a single word. The savanna no longer waited for him to roar. It no longer asked. It simply followed, as rivers follow gravity, as stars follow the night. And so Makari rose, not as the king of voices, but as the sovereign of silence, unchallenged, unshaken, undeniable. But the savanna, ever restless, was not yet finished with its trials. From beyond the horizon came a lion unlike any Makari had faced, vast in size, his mane blackened like storm clouds, his roar splitting the air like thunder. He was a wanderer, a usurper, a voice that demanded crowns not earned but seized. When he entered the pride's territory, his roar shook the sky. Birds scattered, gazelles fled. The rival's voice was so immense that even the ground seemed to tremble. He laughed at Makari, mocking the silent king. What are you without a roar? A shadow wearing a crown. The pride held their breath. The hyenas crept closer, hungry for spectacle. This was the moment, Makari's silence against the storm. The rival roared again, louder, fiercer, the air vibrating with sound. Yet Makari stood still. He did not flinch. He did not waver. His eyes locked upon the challenger, and in that gaze was a depth beyond noise, the depth of earth, of sky, of eternity itself. Step by step, Makari advanced, each movement silent but heavy with unseen weight. The rival faltered, his roar growing thinner, his certainty cracking beneath the pressure of what could not be heard. For silence, when it holds truth, is stronger than thunder. At last the rival turned. His roars dissolved into emptiness as he fled into the horizon, swallowed by the silence he could not conquer. Makari did not chase. He did not roar in triumph. He simply stood, and the savanna knew. The battle was won not by sound but by presence. When the rival had vanished and the echoes of his roars faded into the horizon, the savanna exhaled as if released from a storm. The herds lifted their heads. The birds returned to the sky, and the pride gathered around Makari. They had seen the impossible, a king who did not need the thunder of a roar to command the earth. His silence had outlasted fury, had outshone violence, had revealed a power deeper than noise. In that moment, understanding spread like fire through dry grass. The lion's worth was not measured by the sound of his voice, but by the strength of his presence, the gravity of his being. The pride bowed their heads, not in fear but in reverence. Makari did not stand taller, nor did he claim the victory with triumph. He simply remained as he was, calm, unshaken, the quiet axis of a vast and living world. The animals no longer whispered doubts. They spoke his name as one speaks of rain in a drought, or of fire in the cold, with gratitude, with awe, with certainty. Makari had returned not with a roar, but with the elixir of silence, proof that true power needs no sound. Seasons rolled onward and the savanna healed. The rains returned, rivers spread their silver veins across the plains, and life rose again in color and song. Yet among all creatures one story lingered, carried from mouth to mouth, from generation to generation, the tale of Makari, the lion who never roared. The cubs of the pride listened wide-eyed as their mothers told it by starlight. The antelopes spoke of him when they bent to drink at the river. Even the winds seemed to hum his name as they passed through the tall grass. He had become more than a lion. He had become a legend. They said his silence was heavier than thunder, that his gaze alone could shape the fate of beasts. They said he was not only king of the lions, but guardian of the savanna itself, a spirit crowned by stillness. And though Makari's paws left prints that would fade with the rains, his presence was etched into the memory of all who had seen him. For every roar dies in the air, swallowed by time. Every echo fades, but silence, true silence, endures. It carves itself into hearts. It settles into souls. It shapes the very world without needing to shout. Thus Makari became eternal, not because he roared, but because he never did. He proved that greatness is not the noise we make, but the weight we carry, the light we cast, the truth we embody. And so even now, when the plains lie still under the burning sun, some swear they feel him there, the lion who never roared, yet whom no creature dared to face. Makari, the sovereign of silence. And so lives the legend of Makari, the lion who never roared, but whom no one ever dared to face. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife